I found the photograph at an auction house in Manchester, England. It was a Tuesday in February, one of those damp winter days when the grey sky seems to press down on the city, and the old red brick buildings look darker than usual. The auction house was clearing out the contents of a sports club that had closed after operating for over a century, and among the lots were dozens of old photographs documenting the club's history. Most bidders were interested in the more recent photographs, images from championship seasons, famous players, memorable matches. But I was drawn to a large photograph from the early 20th century, showing what appeared to be a football team posed in front of wooden bleachers. The photograph showed 13 men, 7 players seated in the front row, wearing dark, long-sleeved jerseys, white shorts, and long socks, while 6 men stood behind them in a mix of playing and casual attire. What immediately caught my attention was the figure on the far right, a man standing slightly apart from the group, wearing a pinstripe suit, vest, and a distinctive wide-brimmed cowboy-style hat tilted forward. He had a thick moustache and beard, one hand on his hip, appearing older and more authoritative than the others, clearly the team's manager or coach. There was something about his posture, his separation from the group, and his intense gaze that made him seem less like a football coach and more like something else entirely. Something darker. The auctioneer noticed my interest. "That's the Ashford United team from 1913, he said. "Interesting lot, that one. Comes with a whole box of materials, newspaper clippings, club records, even some items from when they demolished the old clubhouse in 1968. Strange story attached to it all." "What kind of strange story?" I asked. "When they tore down the original clubhouse, they found a hidden basement beneath the locker room. Place had been sealed up for decades. What they found down there, well, it suggested the football club was a front for something else entirely. Some kind of secret society or cult. Never got much publicity. The club wanted to keep it quiet. But the materials are all there if you're interested." On the back of the photograph's mounting board, in faded ink, was written, "Ashford United Football Club, Season 1913-1914, Manager Cornelius Blackwood," and below that, in different handwriting, clearly added much later, "Hidden Temple discovered beneath clubhouse, 1968, the Brotherhood of the Radiant Field. May God have mercy on their souls. I bought the photograph and its accompanying box of materials for £400, sensing immediately that I'd stumbled onto something extraordinary and disturbing. That evening in my hotel room, I carefully examined everything. The box contained club records, newspaper clippings from 1913 and 1968, architectural drawings, photographs of the discovered basement, and what appeared to be ritual texts and membership documents from something called the Brotherhood of the Radiant Field. I began with the club records from 1913. Ashford United had been a semi-professional football club in Lancashire, one of hundreds of such clubs that existed in England during the golden age of football. According to the records, the team had been formed in 1911 under the management of Cornelius Blackwood, a wealthy businessman who had recently moved to the area. The club had been moderately successful on the field, but what was more notable was the intense loyalty and dedication of its members. Players were described as being completely devoted to the club, training year-round with unusual intensity, and maintaining strict codes of conduct that went far beyond what was typical for football clubs of the era. From a newspaper profile of Ashford United in the Lancashire Observer, March 1913. Ashford United, a model of discipline and dedication. Under the management of Mr. Cornelius Blackwood, Ashford United Football Club has become known throughout the region, not just for their sporting prowess, but for the remarkable dedication and discipline of their players. "We are more than just a football club," Mr. Blackwood explained in an interview. "We are a brotherhood. Our players commit not just to training and matches, but to a complete way of life that emphasizes physical excellence, mental discipline, and spiritual development. The club maintains strict rules for its members: no alcohol, no tobacco, regular physical training, and attendance at what Mr. Blackwood calls enlightenment sessions, held at the clubhouse 3 times per week. These sessions help our players develop the mental and spiritual strength necessary for true excellence." Mr. Blackwood stated, "Football is merely one expression of a greater philosophy of human development that we practice. The results speak for themselves. Ashford United has compiled an impressive record this season, and their players display a level of coordination and unity on the field that opponents describe as almost supernatural. Playing against Ashford is unlike playing any other team," said one opposing manager. "Their players seem to move as one organism, anticipating each other's actions with uncanny precision. It's impressive, though somewhat unsettling." I found membership documents that revealed the club's players were required to sign unusual contracts that bound them to far more than just playing football. From the Ashford United membership contract, 1913, "I, the undersigned, hereby commit myself wholly to Ashford United Football Club and to the Brotherhood of the Radiant Field, of which the club is the outer manifestation. I pledge to maintain absolute loyalty to manager Cornelius Blackwood and to follow his guidance in all matters. Attend all training sessions, matches, and enlightenment gatherings without exception. Maintain physical purity through abstinence from alcohol, tobacco, and carnal relation. Study and practice the teachings of the Radiant Field as revealed by manager Blackwood. Keep absolute secrecy about the inner workings and teachings of the Brotherhood. Submit to initiation rituals as directed by the Brotherhood leadership. Recognize that the club is a sacred space and the field is consecrated ground. Understand that departure from the Brotherhood before completing the full cycle of development, 7 years, will result in spiritual and material consequences. This contract binds me in body, mind, and soul to the Brotherhood for a period of no less than 7 years from the date of signing." I found ritual texts that made clear what the Brotherhood of the Radiant Field actually was: a cult that used the football club as a cover for occult practices. From a text titled "The Mysteries of the Radiant Field," found in the hidden basement in 1968. The field of play is not merely a space for sport, but a sacred temple where the energies of earth and sky converge. Through disciplined movement and unified intention, the Brotherhood can harness these energies for transformation and transcendence. Manager Blackwood is the Hierophant, the one who has achieved full illumination and who guides aspirants along the path. The players are initiates at various stages of development, using the physical discipline of football as a vehicle for spiritual advancement. The true work of the Brotherhood takes place not on the public field, but in the temple below, the sacred space beneath the clubhouse, where the deepest mysteries are revealed, and the most profound rituals are conducted. Through years of training, ritual, and dedication, the initiate progresses through 7 degrees of enlightenment. First degree, the aspirant learns basic physical and mental discipline. Second degree, the dedicated commits fully to the brotherhood. Third degree, the illuminated receives first revelations of the true nature of reality. Fourth degree, the transformed, undergoes physical and spiritual metamorphosis. Fifth degree, the transcendent, achieves abilities beyond normal human limits. Sixth degree, the radiant, becomes a source of enlightenment for others. Seventh degree, the perfected, achieves union with the divine and becomes immortal in spirit. Only Manager Blackwood has achieved the 7th degree. The other members of the Brotherhood progress toward this ultimate goal under his guidance. I found testimony from people who had known the club members in 1913, collected during investigations after the hidden basement was discovered in 1968. From an interview with Mrs. Dorothy Harrison, age 89, conducted in 1968. My brother Arthur was a member of Ashford United in 1913. He was 22 years old, a talented footballer, excited to join what seemed like a prestigious club. At first, everything seemed normal. He trained hard, played in matches, seemed happy with his involvement. But gradually, I noticed changes in him. He became distant from our family. He would attend these enlightenment sessions at the clubhouse and come home in a strange state, very calm and peaceful, but also somehow absent, as if part of him wasn't quite there anymore. He stopped socializing with anyone outside the club. He broke off his engagement to his fiancée, saying that personal relationships were a distraction from his higher purpose. He spoke in odd ways about Manager Blackwood, calling him the Hierophant and the one who has seen the light. I grew concerned and tried to convince Arthur to leave the club. He became upset, not angry exactly, but deeply distressed. He said he couldn't leave, that he had made commitments that bound him, that leaving before completing his cycle would have terrible consequences. In August 1914, when the war began, Arthur enlisted immediately. Many of the Ashford United players did the same. At the time, I thought this was patriotic fervor. But looking back, I wonder if some of them were trying to escape the Brotherhood. Arthur was killed in France in 1915. He was 24 years old. In his personal effects sent home, there was a small medallion with a strange symbol, a circle containing what looked like a football field, with radiating lines extending outward. On the back was inscribed, "Brother of the Radiant Field, 2nd degree." When the hidden basement was discovered in 1968, and the truth about the club began to emerge, I finally understood what Arthur had been involved in. It wasn't just a football club. It was a cult that had used sport as a disguise for something far stranger and darker. The newspaper clippings from 1968 documented the discovery that had finally revealed the truth about Ashford United. From the Manchester Guardian, June 15th, 1968. Cult Temple. Discovered beneath demolished football clubhouse. Workers demolishing the old Ashford United clubhouse have made a startling discovery. A hidden basement containing what appears to have been a temple used for occult rituals. The basement, which was sealed and had been unknown to recent club members, was discovered when demolition workers noticed that the foundation structure suggested a space below the locker room that didn't appear on any building plans. Breaking through the sealed entrance, they found a large room decorated with unusual symbols and containing various ritual objects, including An altar at the center, with a carved symbol depicting a football field surrounded by radiating lines. 13 ceremonial robes hanging on hooks along the walls. Books containing ritual texts and philosophical writings about something called the Brotherhood of the Radiant Field. Membership documents and contracts from 1911-1914. Photographs and records documenting the activities of what appears to have been a secret society, masquerading as a football club. "This is quite extraordinary," said Professor James Mitchell, a historian consulted by authorities. "It appears that what was presented to the public as a football club was actually a front for an occult organization. The football activities were real, but they served as a cover and as a means of recruitment and training for this secret brotherhood. The documents suggest the organization was led by Cornelius Blackwood, who managed the Ashford United team from 1911 to 1914. Members were bound by strict contracts and underwent elaborate initiation rituals in the hidden basement. The Brotherhood apparently dissolved in 1914, possibly due to the outbreak of war. What happened to Cornelius Blackwood and the other members remains unclear. I found architectural drawings of the hidden basement created during the 1968 investigation. The space was approximately 40 feet by 30 feet, with a vaulted ceiling decorated with painted symbols. The altar at the center was positioned so that it aligned with the midfield point of the football pitch above. From an investigator's report, June 1968, the hidden basement beneath the Ashford United clubhouse appears to have been purpose-built as a ritual space. The architecture incorporates specific geometric proportions that correspond to occult traditions, and the alignment with the football pitch above suggests the space was designed to channel or focus energies generated by activities on the field. The ritual texts found in the basement describe the football pitch as a consecrated ground where physical exertion and unified intention generate powerful spiritual energies. The Brotherhood apparently believed that the coordinated movements of the players during matches created energy patterns that could be harnessed for occult purposes in the temple below. The most disturbing elements are the descriptions of initiation rituals conducted in this basement. According to the texts, initiates underwent ceremonies involving extended periods of meditation in complete darkness, ingestion of substances described as enlightenment elixirs, possibly hallucinogens, physical endurance tests designed to break down normal consciousness, exposure to ritual symbolism designed to reprogram the subconscious mind, oaths of absolute loyalty to Cornelius Blackwood as Hierophant. These rituals appear designed to induce altered states of consciousness and create psychological dependency on the group and its leader. Several of the membership contracts found in the basement include disturbing clauses suggesting members believed they were binding themselves spiritually as well as legally, and that departure from the Brotherhood would result in supernatural consequences. I found one more critical document, a journal apparently kept by one of the players, discovered in the hidden basement in 1968. From the Journal of William Ashton, dated October 1913 to July 1914. October 12th, 1913. I joined Ashford United 3 months ago, attracted by their reputation as a disciplined and successful club. At first, everything seemed normal. Training sessions, friendly matches, team meetings. But gradually I've realized there's something else going on. The enlightenment sessions Manager Blackwood holds are not about football strategy or team building. They're something else entirely. Ritual gatherings where Blackwood speaks in strange terms about harnessing the energies of the field and transcending ordinary human limitations. Last week, I underwent the first degree initiation. We gathered in a room beneath the clubhouse that I'd never known existed, a large temple-like space decorated with bizarre symbols. Blackwood, wearing ceremonial robes, led us through hours of chanting and meditation. We were given a drink that made everything seem distant and dreamlike. When it was over, I felt changed, more connected to my teammates, but also somehow less myself, as if part of my individual identity had dissolved into the group. I'm not sure what I've gotten involved in, but the contract I signed is binding for 7 years, and Blackwood says terrible things will happen to anyone who tries to leave before completing their cycle. December 3rd, 1913. The training has intensified. We practice for hours every day. But it's not just about football anymore. Blackwood has us perform movements and formations that serve some ritual purpose I don't fully understand. He says we're creating energy patterns, building power that will be used for our collective transcendence. During matches, I experience strange sensations, a feeling of being connected to my teammates at a level deeper than normal communication. We move together with uncanny coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. It's exhilarating, but also frightening. The other players seem completely devoted to Blackwood. They speak of him with reverence, call him the Hierophant, believe he has achieved enlightenment, and will lead us all to transcendence. I'm beginning to doubt, but I'm also afraid. The things Blackwood says about those who betray the Brotherhood, spiritual destruction, material ruin, madness, sound like threats, even if he presents them as warnings about mystical consequences. March 18th, 1914. I've reached the 3rd degree. The initiation involved experiences I can barely put into words. Hours in the temple below, subjected to sounds and images and substances that broke down my sense of reality. Blackwood's voice guiding me through visions of transformation and transcendence. I emerged changed, more enlightened perhaps, or more damaged. I can no longer tell the difference. The Brotherhood is my entire world now. My family, my friends outside the club. They seem like shadows, unreal. Only the Brotherhood is truly real. Only the path to transcendence matters. This is what Blackwood wants. This is what the rituals are designed to create. Complete loyalty, complete dedication, complete submission to his authority and his vision. I understand now that I'm trapped. Not just by the contract, but by what has been done to my mind. I no longer know who I am, apart from the Brotherhood. July 28th, 1914. War has been declared. Many of us are planning to enlist. I think some of the brothers see this as an escape, though none would say so openly. Blackwood seems disturbed by the prospect of the Brotherhood dispersing. He has spoken about the war as a test, as a temporary interruption of our work. He says those who survive will return to complete their journey to transcendence. But I don't think we're coming back. I think the war will destroy the Brotherhood. And perhaps that's for the best. I've come to understand what Ashford United really is. A cult disguised as a football club, using sport as a cover for psychological manipulation and occult practices. Blackwood is not an enlightened guide, but a charlatan or madman who has used ritual and substances and psychological techniques to control us. I hope that when this war is over, if I survive, I will be free of him and of the Brotherhood. I hope I can reclaim whatever is left of my individual self after years of being subsumed into the collective. This is my final entry in this journal. I'm hiding it in the temple below, sealed in a hollow space in the altar. Perhaps someday someone will find it and understand what really happened here. William Ashton, July 28th, 1914. I found military records indicating that William Ashton had died in France in October 1915. Of the 13 men in the photograph, 9 had enlisted in 1914. Only 4 survived the war. From the investigation report, 1968. Of the 13 men shown in the 1913 Ashford United photograph, Cornelius Blackwood, manager, disappeared in late 1914, never seen again. No death certificate, no records of his whereabouts after September 1914. Players and staff. 9 enlisted in military service in 1914. 5 were killed in action. 4 survived the war, but none returned to the Ashford area. Those who could be traced reported having no memory of the Brotherhood or claimed it had all been youthful foolishness. The 4 who did not enlist, 2 died in 1915 under mysterious circumstances, 1 drowning, 1 fall. 2 survived to old age, but refused to discuss their time with Ashford United. The football club continued to operate after 1914, but under new management and with no connection to the Brotherhood. The hidden basement remained sealed and unknown until its discovery during demolition in 1968. The fate of Cornelius Blackwood remains unknown. Some speculate he fled to avoid prosecution if the truth about the Brotherhood emerged. Others suggest more sinister possibilities, that he met with violence from disillusioned members, or that his occult practices led to some other end. I spent months researching the case further, attempting to trace what happened to the survivors, and to understand what the Brotherhood of the Radiant Field had really been about. What emerged was a picture of a charismatic leader who had used the cover of a football club to recruit members for a cult that combined physical discipline with psychological manipulation and occult practices. The intense training, the ritual substances, the elaborate symbolism, the isolation from outside influences, all were classic cult control techniques. Whether Blackwood truly believed in his occult philosophy, or was simply exploiting young men for his own purposes, remains unclear. But the impact on his victims was undeniable. Lives disrupted, minds damaged. And for 9 men, death in a war some of them may have entered partly to escape the Brotherhood. I wrote a comprehensive account of the case, examining not just what happened, but what it revealed about how cults operate, how charismatic leaders manipulate followers, and how ordinary organizations can serve as fronts for darker purposes. The book was titled The Brotherhood of the Radiant Field: How a Football Club Became a Cult in 1913 England. The photograph appeared on the cover, and I found myself studying it obsessively. 13 men posed in front of wooden bleachers with corrugated metal siding. 7 players seated in front, wearing their football kit. 6 men standing behind them. And on the far right, standing slightly apart from the group, Cornelius Blackwood in his pinstripe suit and distinctive cowboy-style hat, one hand on his hip, his bearded face showing confidence and authority. He looks like an eccentric football manager. But knowing what I know now, I see something else. A cult leader posing with his disciples. A man who has used sport as a cover for psychological manipulation and occult practices. Looking at the players, I wonder what they were thinking when this photograph was taken. Did they already understand they were trapped in something beyond a football club? Did they know about the hidden temple beneath the locker room? Had they already undergone initiation rituals that altered their sense of self? Or did some of them still believe this was just an unusually dedicated football team, not yet realizing they'd joined a cult? The photograph was taken in 1913. Within a year, war would break out, and the Brotherhood would effectively dissolve. 9 of these 13 men would go to war. 5 would die in France and Belgium, far from the consecrated ground of the football pitch, where they'd trained under Blackwood's guidance. The photograph looked ordinary when I first saw it. Just a football team, posed for a formal portrait in 1913. But it's actually a document of a cult, showing a charismatic leader with his followers, all gathered around a shared delusion of transcendence through sport and ritual. May the men who were trapped in the Brotherhood of the Radiant Field rest in peace, particularly those who died in war, possibly trying to escape. May William Ashton's journal, hidden in the temple and discovered decades later, serve as a warning about how easily manipulation can masquerade as enlightenment. And may Cornelius Blackwood, wherever he ended his days, be remembered not as an innovative manager, but as an example of how charisma and authority can be used to exploit and control. The photograph looked ordinary, but it captured 13 men involved in something far darker than sport. A secret cult operating beneath the surface of a football club, using the field as both cover and a sacred space for occult practices. That's the truth preserved in this image from 1913. That's the story that emerged when a hidden basement was discovered beneath their locker room in 1968. A football club that was a front for a cult. A manager who was actually a cult leader. Players who were initiates in a secret brotherhood. And a hidden temple where psychological manipulation and occult rituals transformed dedicated athletes into controlled followers. The photograph looked ordinary, until a hidden basement was found beneath their locker room, and the truth about the Brotherhood of the Radiant Field was finally revealed.